The VA clerk barely looked up. "Sir, I've told you before, without proper documentation, we can't process your claim." Behind him, his son in full military dress uniform stepped forward. "I'm General Marcus Walker, Pentagon Joint Chiefs. You've been denying my father's benefits for a decade. Let me explain what happens next. Hey, welcome to Silent Courage Stories. Before we jump into this powerful story about respect, justice, and hidden heroes, drop a comment and tell us what city you're watching from. And hey, if you think stories like this should never be forgotten, hit that subscribe button and help us keep their memory alive." The fluorescent lights of the Veterans Affairs Office cast harsh shadows across Thomas Walker's weathered face. 72 years old, confined to a wheelchair, clutching a worn folder containing the same documents, the same forms, the same denial letters he'd carried for 10 years. Every month for a decade, he'd made this journey. Kevin Hutchinson, the clerk behind the desk, 30-something with wire-rimmed glasses, adjusted his computer screen without making eye contact. He'd seen Thomas before. Many times. "Mr. Walker, as I've explained previously, without proper documentation, we cannot process your claim. Your service records appear incomplete in our system. Half of them are missing." Thomas's hands trembled, not from age, but from frustration. "Son, those records burned in a rocket attack in Saigon in 1969. You know this. I've explained it every single time." "I'm sorry, sir, but regulations are clear. No documentation, no benefits." Thomas lowered his head. 10 years of the same answer, the same wall. A man who'd been wounded 3 times in Vietnam, earned 2 Purple Hearts and 3 Bronze Stars, was now being treated like a beggar in his own country. A voice rose from behind him, calm, controlled, but carrying an undercurrent of barely contained fury. "Look at me." Kevin raised his head and froze. Standing before him was a 4-star general in full dress uniform, immaculate, chest adorned with ribbons and medals, eyes like tempered steel. "I'm General Marcus Walker, Pentagon Joint Chiefs. You've been denying my father's benefits for a decade. Let me explain what happens next." Kevin's face drained of color. He stammered. I'm just following regulations, sir." Marcus leaned forward, his hands flat on the desk. "Regulations? Which regulation requires you to deny a war veteran his earned benefits for 10 years? Which regulation mandates that you humiliate a man who earned 3 Bronze Stars defending this country?" The entire office had stopped. Other clerks, waiting veterans, security guards, everyone watched in silence. No one breathed. Marcus pulled out his phone. "You have 2 options. Either you open my father's file right now and approve all his back payments, or I make a call to the Secretary of Defense. He knows my father from Vietnam." Kevin's hands began to shake. "Sir, I don't have the authority. I need to call my supervisor." "Then call." 5 minutes later, VA Supervisor Patricia Coleman arrived, practically running. She stopped short when she saw Marcus. "General Walker, what an honor. How can I help you?" Marcus stood to his full height, imposing in his presence. "Ms. Coleman, this is my father, Thomas Walker, Vietnam veteran. You've been denying his benefits for 10 years. I'm waiting for an explanation." Patricia frantically typed on the computer, shuffling through files. Her face grew progressively redder. "Sir, it appears there's been a misunderstanding. The system records—" "The system?" Marcus's voice was ice. "The system, or the people operating it? My father has come here every month for 10 years. Every month he's told the same story. Every month he's been dismissed." Thomas sat silently. For the first time in a decade, he saw hope, not in the system, but in his son's eyes. He hadn't looked at Marcus directly. He was ashamed. He hadn't wanted to be a burden. Patricia typed furiously. "We're fixing this immediately, sir. All back payments, medical care, everything, right now." "How long will it take?" "Normally 6 to 8 weeks, but—" Marcus raised his phone. Jim? It's Marcus. Yes, I'm at the VA office. My father's situation. Yes, 10 years. You understand. Thank you. He ended the call. That was the VA liaison director at the Pentagon. This will be resolved within 24 hours. Patricia's phone rang. Her face went white as she listened. Yes, sir. I understand, sir. Immediately, sir. When she hung up, her hands were trembling. That was Washington, the deputy secretary. Mr. Walker's file has been given highest priority. Kevin still sat at his desk in shock. Marcus turned to him. Son, how old are you? 32, sir. 32. When my father was your age, he was in a bunker at Saigon. He crossed a minefield to save 3 of his buddies. He still has shrapnel in his left leg. And you tell him, no documentation. Kevin lowered his head. I'm sorry, sir. I was just doing your job. Your job is to serve veterans, not obstruct them. Marcus turned to his father, speaking gently for the first time. Dad, let's go. Everything will be fixed by tomorrow. Thomas nodded but didn't rise immediately. Marcus, why didn't you tell me that you'd made general? Because you wanted to handle this yourself. I know, but enough is enough, Dad. You won the war. You deserve to win the peace, too. Thomas's eyes filled with tears. He hadn't cried in Vietnam, hadn't cried when friends died. But now, as an old man, in front of his son, he couldn't hold them back. Marcus took the wheelchair handles. Come on, Dad, let's go home. As they left, Marcus stopped and addressed the room. I'm speaking to everyone here. Every veteran in this room will get what they've earned. If they don't, they call me. He placed his card on the desk. General Marcus Walker, Pentagon. My direct line. Outside, the sun was setting. Father and son stood quietly for a moment. Marcus, I'm proud of you, son. I'm proud of you too, Dad. Always have been. The next day, Thomas's phone rang. The VA calling. All his benefits had been approved. 10 years of back payments, $186,000, lifetime health care, home care services, everything. But the story didn't end there. 2 days later, the Washington Post ran a headline, Pentagon General Shakes VA System, Fights for Father Denied for Decade. The story went viral. Thousands of veterans shared similar experiences. An emergency Senate hearing was called. The VA director was forced to resign. Kevin Hutchinson was fired, but Marcus didn't let it end there. A month later, he called Kevin. Son, I have a job offer for you. Sir? You'll work at the Pentagon, Veterans Affairs Department. You'll learn how to really help veterans. Kevin was stunned. But sir, after what I did to you and your father, everyone makes mistakes. What matters is learning from them. Come learn to do it right. Kevin accepted. He's now one of the biggest advocates for veterans' rights. Thomas Walker sat in his comfortable chair at home, watching the news. The VA system was undergoing major reform. Thousands of veterans were finally receiving their benefits, all because of one phone call. When Marcus visited, Thomas asked, Who did you really call? The Secretary of Defense? Marcus smiled. No, Dad. I ordered pizza, but they didn't know that. They both laughed. But the truth was, Marcus's presence, his rank, his authority had been enough. Sometimes you don't need to demonstrate power. You just need to show it exists. 3 months later, Congress passed new legislation. The Walker Act. No veterans' benefits can be denied due to missing documentation from combat-related losses. Thomas was invited to the White House. He sat in his wheelchair beside the president as the bill was signed into law. They asked him to speak. He approached the microphone. I was wounded in war, but the real wound came in peace, in my own country. For 10 years, I was ignored, until my son made one phone call. But how many veterans don't have a son who's a general? How many suffer in silence? The room was silent. This law is for them, for the quiet heroes, the forgotten ones. Now, no one will wait. No one will be ignored. The applause lasted for minutes. When Thomas returned home, Marcus was waiting. "That was a powerful speech, Dad. Without you, there would have been nothing to speak about, son." "No, Dad, without you, I never would have become a general. You taught me honor, patience, perseverance." Father and son embraced. Thomas's eyes filled again, this time with joy. In the VA office, Thomas's photo now hangs on the wall. Below it reads, "The man who never gave up, the veteran who changed the system." Kevin, now at the Pentagon, looks at that photo every day and tells every new veteran, "You have rights, and we're here to help you get them." Marcus Walker still serves at the Pentagon, but he has an additional duty now, Director of Veterans Rights Protection Unit. Thomas Walker died at 75. Thousands attended his funeral. Not just family and friends, hundreds of veterans stood in respect for the man who fought for their rights. His gravestone reads, "Hero in war, warrior in peace, never gave up." Marcus visits monthly. Each time he says the same thing. "Mission accomplished, Dad. No one waits anymore." Outside the VA building stands a new statue, an elderly veteran in a wheelchair, holding documents, but his face shows hope. The statue is called The Wait. Below it reads, "To Thomas Walker and all veterans who waited 10 years. One phone call can change everything." Patricia Coleman, former VA supervisor, is now a veterans' rights attorney. In every case, she tells Thomas's story. "Systems are made of people," she says, "and people can change." At the White House, they're celebrating the anniversary of the Walker Act. Marcus is speaking. "My father told me, when you have power, use it for those who don't." Today, his legacy lives on. The room rises. Applause echoes from Vietnam to Korea, from Iraq to Afghanistan. Veterans from every war, every generation, applauding. Because sometimes one phone call's enough, one voice. When one child stands up for their parent, the system changes. And Thomas Walker's story became hope for every veteran, a lesson for every child, a warning to every system. Don't make heroes wait, because one day someone will make that call, and everything will change. The story spread beyond offices and hearings. It reached small towns where veterans gathered at VFW halls, sharing their own battles with bureaucracy. It reached young soldiers just beginning their service, teaching them that the fight for dignity doesn't end when the uniform comes off. A year later, the Veterans Response Initiative was launched, a hotline staffed by people like Kevin, people who'd learned the hard way that behind every claim number is a human being who served. Marcus received letters from across the country, veterans who'd gotten their benefits after years of waiting, children who'd been inspired to fight for their parents, even administrators who'd changed how they approached their work. One letter stood out. From a young lieutenant, "Sir, I never knew my grandfather. He died waiting for his benefits. But your father's story made me understand why I serve, not just for the mission, but for the promise that those who serve will be honored. Thank you for reminding America of that promise." Marcus framed that letter, hung it next to his father's bronze stars. The ripple effects continued. VA offices nationwide instituted Walker protocols, expedited processing for elderly veterans, automatic approval for combat-related documentation losses, and mandatory sensitivity training using Thomas's story as a case study. Kevin Hutchinson, once the face of bureaucratic indifference, became a crusader. He personally processed over 1,000 previously denied claims. He kept a photo of Thomas Walker on his desk, a daily reminder of his transformation from obstacle to advocate. 5 years after that confrontation, a documentary was made. One Call, The Walker Story. It premiered at the Pentagon with Marcus providing commentary. "My father taught me that rank isn't about power over others. It's about power to help others. That day at the VA, I didn't use my rank to intimidate. I used it to illuminate, to show them who they were really denying. The documentary won 3 awards and was required viewing at VA training centers nationwide. At Thomas's memorial service, they read letters from veterans he'd never met, but who'd benefited from his stand. One stood out. "I'm 93 years old. I waited 12 years for my benefits. After the Walker Act passed, I received everything in 3 weeks. I'll die knowing my country finally kept its promise. Thank you, Thomas Walker. Thank you for not giving up." Marcus keeps that letter in his wallet, a reminder that his father's greatest battle wasn't fought in Vietnam, but in a VA office, armed only with patience and dignity. Today, entering any VA office, you'll see Thomas Walker's photo, not as decoration, but as declaration. We remember, we've changed, we serve. And in the Pentagon, in Marcus's office, hangs a simple frame. Inside, Thomas's original VA claim form, stamped "Denied" 10 times. Below it, Marcus has written, "Sometimes the greatest victories come not from force, but from a single voice saying, 'Enough. Dad, your war is won.'" The Walker Legacy Foundation now helps veterans navigate the system. Its motto, taken from Thomas's speech, "No one waits alone," because that's what Thomas Walker taught America. Heroes don't just fight wars, they fight for each other, and sometimes all it takes is one person with the courage to pick up the phone and say, "This ends now."